Hey everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, host of 5 Minutes With. It is a true honor this week to have a very special guest, Dr. Cyril Wecht. He is a forensic pathologist as well as a medical and legal consultant, and I'm sure you've heard of him, if not seen him out and about. He's basically Pittsburgh famous and nationally acclaimed and well known. So thank you so much, Dr. Wecht, for taking some time to be with me today.
Thank you, Natalie, for inviting me. I hope you are well.
I am doing well, and I hope you are doing well as well. It's been quite a year. So you just put out a new book, and we'll get to talking about this in a little bit. But when I was thumbing through this, I thought to myself, my gosh, what a calling your profession is. But do you view it that way, or was it something that you really fell in love with from a young age? Or can you even fall in love with forensic pathology?
No, I did not have this mind at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
At a young age, from the time I was born, and before then, in my mother's uterus, my father told me I was going to be a doctor. So that is the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I continued into college and applied to medical school. It was somewhere, I don't know, because I was so active perhaps at the University of Pittsburgh in so many activities, and people thought I was pre-law rather than pre-med. I don't know where the idea came from, or I just began to read about things. And in my third year of medical school, I wrote to the AMA to get information about whom I could contact. And they gave me the name of a gentleman who was a top figure in legal medicine at that time. He invited me to attend a program in New York City. I went there and he sat down with me. It was very gracious of him and gave me information. Up until that time, I was told 2 degrees would leave me nowhere. I'd be neither fish nor fowl. And others said I'd be a millionaire overnight. So in any event, that's when I decided to go to law school. And then while I was in law school and continuing with my medical practice in pathology, which I did simultaneously, by the way, both as a civilian in Pittsburgh at the University Veterans Administration Hospital, and then 2 years in the United States Air Force, I served as a captain and pathologist at Maxwell Air Force Base. And then I finished up my forensic pathology training at the medical examiner's office in Baltimore, where I finished also my law school in the evening at the University of Maryland. So I did 10 years in 5. It takes 5 years to become a forensic pathologist after medical school and a year of internship. It takes 3 years of law school and 2 years of military service, and I did 10 in 5. So it kind of evolved. And indeed, I have found it very challenging and stimulating all these years. I've been practicing now then full-time since 1962. So that's 58 years. I continue to do all of this work. I used to do more than 550 cases myself a year. I brought on board a colleague a couple of years ago. She's excellent. We split it up now, and I do about 275 autopsies a year, and she does a similar number. And then I do medical legal consultations for attorneys from all over the country, plaintiff and defendant in civil cases, prosecution and defense in criminal cases. I also then do autopsies. I am the forensic pathologist for coroners in 4 surrounding southwestern Pennsylvania counties, as well as private autopsies for families upon their request.
Wow. That's quite impressive. I mean, my mind's kind of blown right now.
Well, I just wanted to, lay it out there so you'll know what I do, and then you can ask me whatever questions you want.
I appreciate that. And I'm wondering if there's a few clones of you out there, because that's a lot of work for one man. So when I hear all of this, I would think it would be very challenging, especially with some of the higher profile cases you've done or cases that concern children. How do you sort of wash yourself of this at the end of the day? Because I would think that being around a lot of death, a lot of sort of gruesome experiences could really take its toll on someone emotionally. How do you deal with that?
You're quite right, Natalie. Just yesterday, I did an autopsy on a 3-week-old baby. His mother had been feeding him, sitting in a comfortable chair, and she fell asleep, and the baby slid down from her upper lap into the space between her thigh and the chair and died from asphyxiation.
Wow.
A real tragedy. And then a week ago, I did an autopsy on an 18-day-old baby who just died suddenly. These are very tragic. And the answer to the question is that, I am a sensitive person, and no matter how many autopsies I do, how many cases I see, I am always thinking of the tragedy that befalls these people, the families, and of course, obviously, the victim. I never lose sight of the personal elements of what I do. If you do that, then you become a robot, a machine. I always think of individuals, as I do in my consultations too, about people who have been wronged one way or another on the criminal side or on the civil side with malpractice.
Yeah, it just seems like it would take a lot to try to not internalize everything and take it on. And to shift gears a little bit, I was reviewing some of the higher profile cases of your career, right? Going all the way back to JFK, to Robert
Yes.
Kennedy, Elvis Presley, what happened with O.J. Simpson, JonBenet Ramsey. And I remember you commenting on that one when I was little, but I do remember that. But most recently, and I think most interestingly, you commented on Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
And so my comment for you isn't about those cases, because people can read about your commentary, but do you ever get nervous? Were you ever threatened? Do you ever feel like, with this conspiratorial angle that, you got to kind of look over your shoulder a little bit?
I have not been directly threatened, and to my knowledge, no one has attempted to kill me, except once in a while my wife, when we have an argument here at
That's
the
fair.
house. But I have paid a price, Natalie. First of all, there are 2 trials that you are aware of that I have had to endure with charges brought against me in 1979, trial in 1981 then, and then in 2006, 84 felony counts brought by the U.S. Attorney. These were very serious. They were all motivated politically and personally. And while I don't think that they were directed against me solely because of what I have said about JFK or other cases, I believe overall, because of my involvement in matters and because of my outspokenness on issues, particularly, for example, police-related deaths, etc., that they played a big role in having these charges brought against me. And so far as my professional life is concerned, I've paid a price, but I have endured, and I somehow have managed to achieve what I set out to do. But in several professional organizations, I have been kind of ostracized. They can't deny me membership or so on. But various roles and committees, speaking engagements that I used to have, and so on. I've paid a price there. So that's the way it goes. I am not happy about having had to endure those. On the other hand, there's an old axiom: that which does not kill you, it makes you stronger.
Right.
Perhaps I have allowed that to play out in my life, or I have been passively the recipient of that kind of unexpected benefit from some of my worst enemies.
I like that. And what would you say to young people that maybe they're not going to necessarily go into forensic pathology, but with that lens of being somebody that is a whistleblower, is somebody that's outspoken, what advice would you give to them?
Well, Natalie, my advice is, do your thing, be yourself, act the way you think a decent, intelligent, honorable person should do. I don't set out, I'm not a zealot, I'm not a fanatic. When I become involved in a case, when I'm consulted or by news media, I review a matter, and that happens like at least every week or 2, I'll get a call from some newspaper or television station, from California to New York, you name it, would I review a matter. I'm very proud of the fact that I continue to receive these, none of which pay any money, with rare exception when I get involved in a more extensive fashion. What I would say to people is, be courageous, be honest, and be consistent. Don't bend with the tide. Don't simply fall in with the other people, even though they may be distinguished colleagues, such as happened with me on the JFK assassination. Because in that way, you maintain your credibility, even among your enemies, as well as, of course, among your friends. And so that's my advice. You got to live with yourself, and you got to be content within yourself, knowing that you have done that which you believe in sincerely and honestly. At the same time, don't be rigid. Don't construct concrete walls around your intellectual capacities and beliefs. So those are some of the thoughts that I would pass on to young people. And by the way, there's not a week, I think, that goes by that I don't receive a phone call, an email directly from a student or a student's parent or family member asking me for advice about how to pursue their career. Many of them want to come in and talk with me. They want to shadow me. Sometimes I've had a lot of these students attend autopsies at their request. They were very interested and so on. And that has meant a great deal to me.
And as we start to wrap up this 5 minutes with, although I could talk to you, I think, for 5 hours, but I wanted to touch a little bit on this book, The Life and Deaths of Cyril Wecht. Why did you decide to do this now?
Well, read the second half of the title.
Memoirs of America's Most Controversial Forensic Pathologist.
Well, see, that answers partly your question. Memoirs. I don't know. I started to work with my wonderful co-author, Jeff Seawald, who is an excellent, experienced, respected author. He came to interview me for a local magazine. And in the course of that, he came up with the idea of, had I ever thought about a book? And I said, well, I don't know. I haven't written books. I have 8 books out there for public consumption and about 4 dozen books, some of which are multi-volume sets in my professional field of forensic science and legal medicine. So I sat down with Jeff, and it's been now several years, and we have spent hundreds of hours going over everything. I decided that I kind of owed it to myself to set things out there, and I wanted to have them around, my family and friends and others, etc. And then things began to fall in place. So in my book, while there are capsulized, abbreviated references and discussions about a couple dozen of my famous controversial cases in this country and some from foreign countries, the book also gets into my childhood, growing up then in the Lower Hill District, how that went, the things that I did, and moves ahead through college and so on, and then talks about some of the legal trials and travails that I have had to endure. And the book discusses the criminal justice system, which, by the way, is very important. And I hope that people will keep that in mind too, to learn how the criminal justice system works and to learn that despite our naivete and arrogance as American citizens, that everything is perfect and pure in America, that is not the case. That the legal system can be corrupted. I'm not the first or the only person who has fallen victim to this. People in powerful positions of district attorney and U.S. attorney, much more so, who have a reason, maybe a personal vendetta or a strong professional desire on their part to advance their careers. And so that's it. And you have to know that that's a price you're going to pay. And sometimes it's not been pleasant. It's cost me millions, literally millions of dollars. It's been a heavy toll over the years on my wife, my kids, and the last time around, even some of my grandchildren who were already old enough to appreciate what was going on. But that's it. There's no backing off. You do your thing. And so here I am at my age, and I only wish I had another a couple of decades to do some of the things that I would still like to do.
Well, I appreciate you taking a little bit more than 5 minutes with me. And as we finally end the show, because like I said, I continue to keep wanting to ask you questions, but I do have one more question. So spending as much time as you have with the dead, what would your advice be for the living?
My advice for the living? Well, that's a very multifaceted question. There again, I don't tell people, what to do, what to eat, what to drink, not to drink, smoke, don't smoke, drive fast, don't drive fast. climb mountains, do parachuting. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I don't have any specific advice. It would be better that you obtain from your personal physician and from your own intelligence in reading about things. One bit of advice I would say is to keep busy, keep active, keep your mind alert, because while there are different ways that people pursue the maintenance of their physical health, diet and exercise and so on, that spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, if you do that with which you are comfortable and you do it the way you honestly believe and you don't bow, what's that great Sinatra song, bow before kings, and do it your way. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. That's one of my favorite songs. I did it my way. Do it your way. And then something really which is most important and regrettably over which you have no control, to pick your parents to get the proper set of genes and hope you don't die at the age of 42 from a heart attack or something like that. So in as much as that's not possible, then play everything the way an intelligent person would. And speaking about that, and to get serious for a moment, if you've got something of a genetic history in your family, which is bad, then you should make sure. Let's say you got a family with a bad history of early onset of arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease leading to heart attacks and so on. Then, at the age of 35, 40, start to go in for annual checkups. Let your doctor check on you. You got a history of breast cancer. You come from a particular ethnic group, Ashkenazi Jews, like me, and so on. My sons, all went and got some testing to see if they, have it to pass on to their children or so on. So anyway, you do the things that are personal to you in an intelligent, honest way. And if you do that, I really think that much of the battle will have been won for you to lead a life that you can be comfortable with. Sometimes you may not be exhilarated about because of the price you're paying, but your inner self, you'll be comfortable and content.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wecht. And I hope that we can spend 5 more minutes with each other very soon.
Natalie, it would be my pleasure. It's been great to see you, and best wishes to you, your family, for good health, and have a relaxing, enjoyable holiday season.
Same to you. Thank you so much.